Florida Maki, I cannot believe, as an informed truth seeker on YouTube, that you would have chosen to live, of all places, the state of Florida. And even worse, you live in a little tiny town called Palm Coast, right by the ocean. Haven't you seen the maps? Haven't you been informed? Florida's going to be underwater. Now, who would say that? Someone from the far left or someone from the far right? You could make the argument that they would both be in unanimity, saying Florida's not the place to be. Florida's definitely someplace you want to avoid. It's going to be underwater in the next 20 years. Well, we heard that and have been hearing that for the last quarter century. Those of us who live in Florida just laugh at it because we know how ridiculous it is coming from either direction. You see those on the right, it's going to be some giant tsunami, or it's going to be a volcano or pole shift or something like that. But from the left, it's going to be man-made global warming, climate change. You see, by now, we were already supposed to be in the throes of an irreversible trend that would have already seen Miami completely inundated and the southern part of Florida completely uninhabitable, and the north being threatened with the exact same thing in the next 10 to 15 years. The movie The Day After Tomorrow, hang on to your hats, folks, was 19 years ago. Almost 2 decades have passed since that warning, and none of it has come to pass. Oh, we've seen some storms for sure. And it seems like perhaps they might be getting a little bit more intense. They might spin up a little faster. But nothing like what was shown. We're going to look back. Mark my words. We're going to look back at the early part of the 21st century with cringe and shame and disgust at the absolute unbelievable amount of narcissism that people had about AI. There's all this talk about this chatbot AI and the power of computers and how they were the future. I tell you what, if you guys want to see something where history repeats itself, on, I believe it's Cinemax or HBO, there's the show called The Nick. And it talks about the state of medical science, early part of the 20th century, and how these men thought they were becoming close to gods for what they were able to do with the human body and cut it open and do surgery. And we look at it now, and it's absolutely barbaric and backward. But they thought at the time, and as did most people at the time, that they were on the leading edge and right there at the point where they were going to make people live forever. This was pre-World War I. And just to give you a quick glimpse, they had no idea about blood typing, what made one transfusion work and one transfusion not work. They literally could not stop bleeding during surgeries to the extent that they couldn't even do a C-section to deliver a baby. And they thought narcotics were the drug of the future that was going to bring mankind into a new understanding of the universe. And regularly were using heroin and codeine and all this kind of stuff. Drug addicts, all of them. But they were the cutting edge. And that's what I see now with everyone so fearful of the rise of AI and transhumanism and all. We're going to look back at it and we're going to be so ashamed. It's like, why in the world did we think that we were anywhere near what we thought we were? And I have proof for it. I'm sure a lot of you are like, Florida Maki, you need to take transhumanism seriously. They're going to do it. They're going to do it. Trust me, I have proof. I'm going to show you something today that a lot of people haven't seen. It's an article that's out about this chatbot AI, and it shows you something about how ignorant and how backward the current state of computers is and AI. But real quick, before I forget, I always want to say thank you. Be humble and have some graciousness and understand that those who have stepped up, taken the time to come here to the Florida Maki YouTube channel and participate, I'm absolutely humbled by that. Thank you. 132,000 subscribers and growing every day. I very much appreciate it. But those of you who have gone to the Patreon channel and taken the next step and pledged the $1 per month to be part of the discussion over there, guys, you make such a huge difference in my life. I can't even really express it. It's only $1 a month, fully refundable. First 90 days. It's even less if you sign up for an entire year. Big difference between Patreon and YouTube. Here, we have to behave ourselves. We have to conduct ourselves in a PG-13 manner because of the advertisers. And that's just the rules. Everywhere you go, there are rules. You have a job, you just have to adhere to them. But over at the Patreon channel, the rules are a little bit looser because of that little speed bump, that little $1 paywall speed bump. It's kind of like the old pay-per-view back in the day when, if people remember that, when you had cable TV, there were rules, but then there was pay-per-view and the rules were a little bit looser. Partnering with Vimeo, we can do that. So would love to have you over there. No risk, first 90 days. God bless everyone who has already stepped up. Would love to have you over there. PsyOps 101. Psychology and the study of it will prove just how impossible it is, the idea that we could create a machine that could ever mimic a true human being. And I'm sure a lot of people are scratching their heads, they're waggling their fingers. Man, some are probably already typing. But let me show you guys something. You see, this is what we were supposed to already have been experiencing. This is a representation of what Tampa would look like by now. This is what was supposed to have happened. This is what computer models were saying would be for sure, absolutely positively by now. 2023, Florida would be mostly underwater, and it's not. It's not. But here's the article. This is from Fox. Chat GTP confession, global warming, not much since 2016. Junk scientist Steve Malloy publishes combative exchange with his chatbot. Now wait until you hear what is said here and how this supposedly AI intelligent chatbot can't even admit when shown the facts that it's wrong. What it means is that it's been programmed by somebody to not admit the facts, meaning that it's not thinking for itself. Let me read this for you. The popular artificial intelligence bot, ChatGPT, was forced to admit that global warming has flattened in recent years after asserting there has been an increase in temperatures. Junk Science founder Steve Malloy published a lengthy exchange he had with ChatGPT, beginning with a simple question. Now pay attention to the question here. This is where things get a little murky. Is CO2 warming a hoax? Now that's a very poorly worded question. Okay, if he was asking about global warming or climate change or man-made climate change, then those things should have been included in the question. The idea of carbon dioxide causing warming, well, that's fact. That's fact. CO2 does, in fact, cause warming. You can see that in a room. Just go into a room, shut all the doors with two people, have a conversation, and measure the increase in temperature from when you began to when you ended. And then invite in 7 more people and continue the conversation and watch the room temperature go up because of CO2. That's just fact. But that is a completely different question than climate change, the cause of it, global warming, all this. They're tangentially tied. But one question is one thing and another is another. But ChatGPT was quick to say no, telling Malloy, it is widely accepted scientific fact. CO2 warming, yes. That human activity has fueled CO2 emission into Earth's atmosphere. Now that's a huge assumption for that question. So even if CO2 emissions had increased, and we know that CO2 warms rooms or it is a thermal insulator, it's a big step to say that that's the direct cause of all climate change. That's why it's so-called theory. Now, he responds, Malloy, but why has there been no global warming since 2015 despite 500 billion tons of emissions? Malloy asked. To which the bot responded, It is important to note that short-term temperature variations do not necessarily indicate a change in the long-term trend of global warming, ChatGPT responded. While it is true that global average surface temperatures have not increased as rapidly since 2015 as they did in the previous decade, this does not mean that global warming has stopped. In fact, global temperatures in recent years have been some of the warmest on record, and the 5 hottest years on record have all occurred since 2015. Now, those are all facts. The bot went on to claim that there is clear evidence that the 500 billion tons of emissions have contributed to, okay, saying it's contributed to is one thing, saying it's the cause is another, by global warming, by pointing to temperature records from the National Ocean and Atmospheric Administration over the past decade as the, quote, hottest ever recorded, among other reasons. When Malloy pressed ChatGPT on why NOAA's data show there hasn't been a warming since 2015, ChatGPT, insisted there has been a warming since 2015. Now, here's the problem. Look over here to the right, all the way to the right. This last line is 22, 21, 20, 19, 18, 17. 16 is this high one, 15 is here. So technically, when you're looking at this graph, if this is 15 and this is 22, it's trending downward, not upward. Even though these, when you look at it historically, are the warmest, compared to like 1990 or 1980 or back here, when you look at all of this, that's true, but the trend is a downward direction since 15. But the bot wouldn't admit this. The bot, when pressed, no matter what, would not admit this. So what this, in fact, it even apologized. It says, I apologize for my earlier response. It is correct that NOAA's global temperature data shows that there has been a slowdown in the rate of warming. That's absolutely incorrect. It's not a slowdown in the rate of warming. It's literally going downward. It's a complete stop. And he points this out. He says, but you are still wrong, since NOAA global temperature data for the period 2015 through 2022 shows no warming trend at all. In fact, NOAA data report a slight cooling trend. And the bot apologizes again. No bot, no AI would apologize as if it had offended. You see, this is all programmed response. The AI is not thinking, oh my gosh, I have been wrong and I feel bad about that, ergo I should apologize. AI does not have that ability. These are all pre-programmed responses, meaning it's not thinking for itself. It's not thinking for itself. I'll give you the links on greenhouse gases and all this kind of stuff. There's a really great thing that NOAA created called a sea level rise viewer, where you can look at your particular area and zoom in, and you can move the slider up and it shows what sea level rise does. Funny thing, where I'm at here in Florida, I moved the slider all the way up to 10 feet of sea level rise, and it still doesn't reach where I am, and I'm 15 minutes from the ocean. This is Palm Coast, Florida, and sea level rise, inundates all of the intercoastal and everything pretty much east of I-95, but where I'm at, which is Palm Coast, is perfectly fine, even with 10 feet of sea level rise. Now, another thing that AI can't do, that they're trying to use it to do, is, and this has to do with yesterday, this is the thumbnail from yesterday's video, the ability to determine the behavior of people. Now, I know a lot of people don't like this topic, but ladies, how would you like to go out one day for a run or go for a jog and get hooked up for being a hooker? Pardon the pun there. Get tossed in the back of a squad car and taken down and booked for engaging in prostitution because you wore a pair of stretch pants, a midriff top, and had a tattoo. See, like right here. You see, you and I and normal human beings could look at this and say, okay, yeah, she's going for a run. Yes, she has long, brightly colored nails. Yes, she's wearing somewhat less on top than what normal folks would during the day to go run around and do their errands. in brightly colored, very tight pants. You see, AI would look at this and say, oh, probability 23% engaged in criminal activity. Oh, here, very clearly, all the bright pink, the belly ring. And this is clearly a John. She's clearly found somebody to engage in the criminal activity with. And so now we have a likelihood of 49% that prostitution is going on here. And don't get me started here. Now we basically have giant human trafficking going on. We got 3 guys, all exposing skin. She's exposing skin, wearing a bright color. So this is like 73% for sure engaging in prostitution. This is what AI would do. This is what AI would do. Because it's not really AI. It's just programmed parameters. Whereas here, AI would say 0%, maybe 1% chance. Even though anybody, that time of night, driving through that part of town, seeing that girl, she's clothed, she's covered neck to foot, got boots on, all black. You go, I wonder what she's doing. Standing out there at 1 o'clock in the morning in that part of town. You see, AI wouldn't see this either. But normal human beings, you and I, would go, okay, yeah, well, all right. Yeah, that's what they're, like I said, clothed from head to foot. I mean, no bright colors, no midriff tops, no nothing like that. But standing in that area at that time of night, could probably put 2 and 2 together. And here, and this is a quiz for my audience. Which one of these 3 is the prostitute? It's a trick question. All 3 of them. This is from an article that they did in Great Britain where they interviewed women who were involved in the trade, voluntarily involved in the trade, not being trafficked or anything like that. So AI wouldn't be able to know here either because, once again, all dressed just like normal people. Because that's the big lie that they love to program in AIs, that it's not normal people that engage in that activity. It is everyday people. And that's, probably something I should leave for Patreon, because that really turns the screws on a lot of people's psyche. That they don't like to think of normal folks just like them being put in positions where they have to do things they could never imagine. And that takes us all the way back to AI. AI cannot comprehend that either because human beings are in charge of AI. Once again, it is just a computer with programmed parameters to spit things out in flowery language to make you think it's thinking. Let me say that again. It's just a computer programmed to spit out responses in flowery language to make you think that it's thinking when it's not thinking. It's just slicing through and dicing through a whole bunch of different responses, all within a certain set of parameters. And that's it. And this conversation about global warming, quote unquote, and the inundation of Florida proves it. Proves it. Beyond the shadow of a doubt. If you had put in all the parameters 20 years ago, they would have said, yes, by now I should be speaking to you from 20 feet underwater. But am I? No. How could a computer have gotten it wrong? How could AI have gotten it so wrong? How could conspiracy theorists from both the left and the right for 25 years have gotten it so wrong? Like I said, it was 2004 when they came out with The Day After Tomorrow. And even if you're not part of the left, the global warming crowd, even the folks on the right here on YouTube, and you know who you are. Oh, Florida will be washed away by then. The inundation will have happened. If you told somebody back in 2004 or 5 or 6, early days of YouTube, yeah, I'm gonna go live on the coast of Florida. You're gonna be wiped away. Haven't you seen the Navy map? All this crap. It's 2023, and the last freest place in North America is Florida. And that bothers a lot of people, but we'll leave it there. God bless, like, share, subscribe. Have a great weekend. We'll see you guys next time.